Alright, I'm nervous, but there's something beautiful, something tragic, something hopeful in the act of goodbye. It's a deep bag, one where the context of goodbye can vary vastly. The sea of emotions that can wash over a goodbye, the range of emotions that can be felt, I think holds immense value when it comes to our interpersonal relationships. Frieren explores the psychology of goodbye, what goodbye means, and how you should go about them. Each of these goodbyes are framed from many different emotional states. It informs the viewer how to say goodbye to someone you love, how your emotions dictate whether or not you are stoic, quiet, or tearful and say goodbye, whether it's an issue of not being able to say what you really want to say, or not being able to let go. Is it easier to leave when you don't attach your emotions to it, to that person, to try to sever ties with a coldness that'll linger? And is that even the right way to frame that? Is it more so that the brief goodbye is a prelude to a warm hello, a welcome back, a nice to see you again? And to Frieren, well, she's an elf that can live over the span of over 1,000 years. An elf that has said thousands of years worth of goodbyes, but only recently has she really thought about what those goodbyes mean and how to go about them. She's only known cold goodbyes as the humans in her life pass in what to her is a flash. It is not until she travels with the hero's party that she truly begins to give it some thought, to really observe it, and it takes another 100 years after slaying the Demon King to emotionally internalize that and apply it in a way that is satisfying for her, a way that she can do right by the people she forms bonds with when saying farewell. To her, a simple "see you later" speaks 1,000 words. And simply put, in Frieren's words, it would be embarrassing when we met again. You see Lawin and Can waiting for Frieren by the bridge. They give Frieren her thanks for all her help and all the fun, and they say, "See you later," then they keep it moving. They spent the first part of the exam together, yet the goodbye is brief. Frieren remarks about how short and simple their farewell was, just like with Sign and Craft, with both Stark and Fern noticing this being a trend. It piques their interest, because it's not as if these were brief interactions. These are people that they spent days, if not months with. She flashes back to the hero's party. It's now clear she learned this method of farewell from Himmel, but is only applying it now, in real time. Himmel had done the same thing over a century ago, saying goodbye in such a brief manner to someone they traveled with, drank with every night for weeks. Frieren asks him the same thing that Fern asked her in the present. He simply says, "Our paths will cross down the line." A tearful farewell wouldn't suit them. It would be embarrassing if they met again. And Frieren hits Stark and Fern with the same words that Himmel spoke. They ask, what does that even mean? And that's a good question, Fern. Have you ever thought about what it means to say goodbye? How do you say goodbye? What context are those goodbyes expressed in? See you later, see you soon, catch you later, maybe just plain old goodbye. There are different degrees, different contexts to which the single word can be applied. Some tearful, elongated, as if you're holding on for dear life, hoping that they never leave. And some as simple as, "I'll see you later." See, even though nothing is promised, you say a "see you later," knowing that your full intent is to see them later, even though there's a non-zero chance that you may never see them again. However, it is good for the people you love in your life to know that you have every intention of seeing them again, no matter how short or how long that time period in between them is. To not make a big deal out of goodbye is to inform that person that you care enough about them to make an effort to see them again. Or at least that's a read on it. Some people might interpret that as, you don't care enough. If you communicate goodbye in a short and sweet manner, and if you care enough about that person, you should probably let them know that. It's context-based. Language can be weird. People have different customs, different ways they move, and it's fine as long as there's a mutual understanding of the way it's communicated. Sometimes it's as simple as, "I'm going to work, I'll see you later when I get home." Maybe you live with your family or you live with your partner. Sometimes the goodbye is to some friends you only see on the weekends because of work. Sometimes the goodbye is after a long reunion when the next meeting will take the same time it took to reunite. And sometimes the goodbye is forever. Sometimes a goodbye is healthy. Maybe the person you're saying goodbye to, you might not have the best relationship with. That goodbye can be mutually understood, or it can be acrimonious. Sometimes the goodbye is due to circumstances out of one's control, like maybe having to move across the world. Or sometimes, a goodbye is an unexpected passing, a one-sided goodbye, one where you can't depend on someone else for closure. It's a bittersweet word, where you could apply many meanings. I'm pretty sure there are people in your life that you hope to never say goodbye to. People that you love so much that you wish you could be with forever, spend time with them forever. Whether it's your romantic partner, your parents, siblings, best friends. These are the people you cherish your time with, people that give your life meaning. Again, goodbyes are simultaneously tragic and beautiful. They can be as brief as you want, as long as you want, as tearful as you want, or as happy as you want. Either way, I think the multifaceted nature of goodbye is well represented in Frieren. And the series makes it a point to highlight the ways that Frieren says goodbye to the people dear to her. Saying goodbye to Himmel and friends after their adventure, she probably thought nothing of it, especially because she thinks that they merely went on a 10-year adventure. her outlook that was all that was, because 10 years is seconds in relation to her long lifespan. They look out at the meteor shower, celebrating their triumph. Frieren explains that the view from the city isn't too great, that she'll take them to a better spot in 50 years. All Himmel can do is laugh and say, 50 years it is. To Frieren, this again is a small fraction of her life. They have a small, brief, tearless goodbye. They intend to see each other again, though at this point, Frieren is still unaware of how significant time is to humans. The way that the elves see the world is surely a mystery, especially to these humans with brief lifespans. Hyder remarks that to her, 50, no 100 years is trifling. She is yet to understand the impact of her indifference to time, maybe even potentially misconstruing Himmel's words about tearful goodbyes and how they aren't their style. Simply put, she mistakenly miscalculated the windows of time and the frequency of which she should have visited. We arrive 50 years later, Himmel, now a small yet dignified old legend. She's shocked, bluntly exclaiming, "You look ancient." You can already get a sense of regret, with her probably not thinking too hard about the fact that he would indeed age the way that he did. From Himmel's perspective, I'm sure Frieren is someone that he would have actually wanted a tearful goodbye with. Someone he fully expected to see later, but not actually 50 years later. That though there's elation that he gets to see her again, there's disappointment in the fact that he didn't get to spend more days with her. He genuinely thought that he'd never see her again. He even kept an artifact for her over the span of decades, something that was so inconsequential to her, but to him was a treasured item that he kept dear, despite the menacing aura that it exuded. A promise to keep it in perfect condition, in anticipation for her return. That's how much she meant to him, willing to wait until the end of time in hopes that their goodbye wasn't their final goodbye. The gang goes on one final adventure. There's a beautiful finality to this journey where Himmel reminisces while reveling in the excitement of travel, a thrill he has not been able to face in decades. The hero, once the lead, now at the back lines being protected by his dear friends. He lived his whole life waiting for the day that they could all be together again. And though this adventure was a brief week, he has been blessed with one last memory, overseeing a beautiful view of a meteor shower with the people he held most dear. The culmination of his wonderful life. I can't help but think, as the camera focuses on the soul shooting star, does he wish for a longer life, with more days spending time with these three people that he loves so dearly? This is their final goodbye. This is the last time these two will ever meet. The next scene immediately cuts to Himmel's funeral. It's that old saying, you don't know what you got until it's gone. And that's on full display during the funeral. She tells herself, why didn't she try harder? Visit more often. Try and learn, know, and better understand him. She had always been aware that humans' lives were short, but never before had she met a human that meant so much to her. The 10 years was not nearly enough. That maybe even 100 years wouldn't have been enough. Her regret because she had not yet learned the importance of her friends and the people she spends her time with. Think of Flam and when she said Frieren would inevitably be hit with a tragedy like that. I think the saddest part of this series is Frieren learning in retrospect how she should have cherished moments more, and how with Stark and Fern she's experiencing the adventure in a more present way, a way where she's more conscious about her time with the people who have shorter lifespans than her, how she's cherishing these moments more while fondly, melancholically, looking back at her adventure with her original party. Again, goodbyes come down to context. Like with the priest, Hyder tells her that they probably will never meet again, a goodbye laced with finality. But really, she got to see him again. And it kind of just speaks to the unpredictable nature of life, how it could lead to both happy and sad surprises. And this re-encounter with Hyder led to her crossing paths with Fern, and her becoming her mage mentor. Also giving her another shot at properly starting a relationship and a friendship, and learning how to value it, as well as learning how to really understand the emotions of humans. Fern is one of the first people that actually helps her learn the value of relationships and to cherish the humans that she creates these relationships with and the limited time she has with them. Her goodbye with Eisen is a case of a see you later, knowing that they will see each other just because of their strength and that they are both from species that live for an immense amount of time. Eisen saw Frieren's despair at Himmel's funeral and gives her another chance and gives her more purpose in this life, setting her on a journey to go find Himmel in the afterlife, which gives Frieren the opportunity to really give the heartfelt goodbye that maybe they should have had. Who knows if the principle, tearful goodbyes aren't our style, will apply once Himmel and Frieren actually reunite. But it's really sweet that at least she has a chance to redeem this goodbye. And let's pivot to another character. Imagine the goodbyes that Sari had to make. The fact that she remembers all of her past students' favorite spells shows that each time she takes on a student, she grows emotionally attached to them, even though she doesn't show it outwardly. I'd imagine that even though she values and longs for human mages to reach her level, to evolve and reach higher levels, The goodbyes after each student turns old probably end up being much more excruciating. The potential that these mages could have to ascend to a higher level of magic, if only they had maybe even just double the lifespan. She cares about them and sees the potential, but despairs that they can't live long enough to really be at their peak physically and meet this potential. As seen in Lernen, the first mage to reach first class status and is Sayri's longest living student, who feels like he has to kill Frieren to even become a memory in her mind. Two awkward mages, a master and student, unable to be vulnerable with one another, especially as his goodbye is nearing. Then there's the goodbye with Sign. Their goodbye kept on being delayed. He was on a forked path, and he was enjoying this journey with them, a lot. And the winter storm gave them another month, gave him time to think about what he wanted to do on their journey, and even brought up the fact that he spent most of his time that month in a tavern. But still, it was enough time for him to reflect on the fact that he had learned the joy of traveling with friends, that it was so hard for him to let go on this forked path because he knew that if he kept going on with Frieren, Fern, and Stark, the journey may have been as equally fulfilling. They have a quick, tearless goodbye, so much so that Stark even remarks on it, confused, especially because of all the time they had spent together. Frieren says, well, Sign is an adult. And I think all this anguish that Sign had about his decision to seek out the guerrilla warrior and him pondering over the last month with this group and them not spending their time together displays the time anxiety that people have. And what I mean is people's desire to fill up their time with meaningful moments. And sometimes that can put unrealistic expectations that every moment is joyful, heartfelt, and memorable. But sometimes just existing with people and enjoying their company can be enough. There is great beauty in the mundane. Sometimes it's enough to just exist, to just be with people. The feeling of comfort is enough to make you long for them in retrospect when the years pass by. Time is a funny, fickle thing, and it's natural to obsess over its passage, as displayed by Fern whenever Frieren takes a long time at a destination. And it takes Frieren a little bit to really understand this. And all this is because of the anxiety you have when inevitably you'll have to say goodbye. I suspect maybe she feels time anxiety because of her trauma, losing her parents in a war and then losing Hyder at a younger age, even though she was able to become a proper mage in the time before his death. I can imagine the time she said her goodbyes to her parents was tragic, especially because they were likely casualties, oft in a brutal way. And it's time anxiety that leads to it, because goodbye doesn't just have to be goodbye to a person. It could be saying goodbye to a time period, saying goodbye to youth, saying goodbye to your adventures. The great Winnie the Pooh once said, "How lucky I am to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard." Frieren had something that she didn't know was going to be hard to say goodbye to. And now she is building something that inevitably will be hard to say goodbye to, that after all she's learned and experienced with these two will make it unbearable. But at the very least, no, at the max, she was present in the moment and understood and enjoyed the memories as they were being formed. Which is beautiful, because life is ephemeral. And it's tragic to not notice this and smell the flowers while they're still around you. Is it better to mourn, being aware of your attachment, or does it just hurt more? Who knows? But I tend to think things like that are well worth it. That the pain is worth it for the love you receive in return. I'm sure they will be for Frieren. And they will for you too. Think long and hard about how you say goodbye to those you love. Cherish every moment, but don't get caught too in the weeds. Find a balance. As nebulous as that is, try to take it case by case, moment by moment, person by person. Every single individual relationship that you have with the people you care about will have different nuances to them. Just make sure that you're doing right by them and giving them the goodbyes they deserve. Every context, every situation. Because you never know when your next goodbye is your last. Thanks for watching, everyone.